Good morning. So our first speaker today is actually a lifelong resident of Marshall, Missouri. She graduated from the high school before graduating from Missouri Valley College in 1992. She's held a variety of positions within the Marshall community, ranging from Dollar General to the YMCA, as well as Marshall Parks and Recreation. And she's also pursued her own dreams of renovating a hotel into a restaurant, coffee shop, gathering place, and then eventually a bed and breakfast as well. So without further ado, please welcome Lori Godsey.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Are we awake?
Yes.
Because guess what time my day started this morning?
4.
Well, 5. As an entrepreneur and my own business owner, yes, I started way earlier just to be here today. But I am so thrilled to be here and share with you my experiences, only because others have shared their experiences with me to get me where I'm at today. So let's get started. Everybody heard of Montague's? Yes? No? Yes. Okay. So how did I get here? What happened last week? The eclipse. So one of the students from here took this picture, and so I just had to share it. It's beautiful. So anyway, this is my building, what it looks like today. So keep that in mind, right? All right. So my clicker doesn't like me. All right, so my background. So I purposely in my bio and stuff did not put what my degree was in. Anybody want to take a guess what my degree was in? No art.
Business.
No business.
Biology.
Nope, not biology.
Parks and Rec.
Nope.
Psychology.
Education.
Nope. Do what?
Physical education.
It was. My degree was in physical education. I got something for Evaldi afterwards, so I'm not walking all the way back there. But anyway, just to show you, you never know where life's going to take you, right? I had a plan in place and that kind of thing. Well, plans and the good Lord took me other places. So along my life's journey. So after I got my degree, I was offered an opportunity to manage Dollar General, where I worked as I was a student. From there, I became the training manager for 14 other stores around our area and stuff. So in that position, I learned a lot. What do you think I learned? How to manage people. What else? Manage time. Customer care. How about budget? Okay. Kind of see where things are starting to go with this. So after that, marriage came along and children came along, which I kind of wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, but I knew I couldn't, just for financial reasons, so I substitute taught. What do you think I learned from substitute teaching?
Patience.
Oh yes, lots of patience. Anybody else? Yep, pick your battles. Working with, teenage, workforce and that kind of thing, and learning their quirks and all that good stuff. I also had the opportunity to coach cheerleading, and I was a swim coach for over 20 years. So next I took on the Aquatics Director at the YMCA. What did I learn there?
Flexibility.
What'd you say?
How to swim.
I already knew how to swim. I taught others, right? So I was able to teach, right? Train and teach, not only kids that came in, but also lifeguarding and CPR and first aid and all those good things, and teaching those kind of things and how to work with the public, right? Okay. Budgets again. I had to have my own budgets. Had to be successful at that, making sure that all balanced out and preparing for that. From there, I went on into Aquatics and Recreational Program Director at the Marshall Parks and Rec. Okay, kind of along the same lines with the YMCA. This is where things started to change for me. So at the park, I ended up having to take care of concessions at our local pool. And so I was doing that. My mother decided she wanted to come work for me in concessions. What a better opportunity, right? Than to get to work with your family, right? So anyway, so from there, one day she came up and she goes, I think we need tenderloins. I'm like, what are you talking about? She goes, I think we need to make some homemade tenderloins. I said, what do you need? And you can make them. So I went and got the stuff. So in a concession stand that's not air conditioning, in the mornings we were standing there beating out tenderloins, breading them, and freezing them. Well, word started to get around. And at the in the concession stand, there was an outside window that kind of went to the ball fields, and then there was an inside concession to the pool area. We had people started pulling up, wanting those tenderloins. I was making about 50 of those a day and could not keep up. I'm like, what is going on here? So then from there, I one day had to end up over at our golf course at that golf house. And I walk in, and lo and behold, and here is a kitchen, a full-fledged kitchen. It had the hood, it had a grill, it had fryers, it had everything. And the guy that worked there, Dale, I said, what are you doing with this? Oh, it's just here, and I cook for the leagues every once in a while. I'm like, what? That's all? You got all this nice air conditioning, da-da-da-da. So anyway, of course, this thing started running. So I went to our park director and I said, what do you think if we opened up a grill? What do you think if we opened up over there and served food? He's like, well, you can try it, but Dale's going to have to say yes first. I said, okay. So I went over and talked to him and begged and that kind of thing. And he said, well, you can try it, but they're not going to eat here. I was like, okay. I said, but let's think about this, Dale, for a minute. I said, they come and play 9 holes of golf. You truly think they want to eat crackers and beer and go out and play another 9 holes? Or are they going to go leave and go get food somewhere else? He's like, started thinking. And I said, besides that, I said, what are your alcohol sales versus your food sales? He said, well, they're way high. They're like 90 and 10. I said, do you know your insurance can go down if your alcohol sales, if that switches? He goes, no. I was like, well, I don't know where I learned that, but I did. So anyway, so I opened it up, and lo and behold, we were serving over 150 tenderloins out of that place a week. We were open Tuesday through Friday from 11 to 2 only. So how many hours is that a week that I was? Anybody? 4 times 4. Okay, so 16 hours, well, 4 times, 16 hours a week. That's all I was open. We were serving anywhere between 75 to 120 people a day. We had people coming in from the community eating, and guess what was happening also? Those golfers went and played 9 holes, came in and ate, and went out and played another 9 holes. So what also did that increase? Revenue, right? From the golf sales, right? And then they could drink more beer, right? All right. So from there, I was working there, and we were only open. We don't have inside facilities for the Parks and Rec. So I would put anywhere in between about probably 90 to 100, 110 hours a week in. So I had lots of comp time built up from the summer. So in the wintertime, let me back up. I got ahead of myself just a little bit. At the golf house, once we started doing that, we started catering the golf tournaments. Okay, so they had golf tournaments. Can you cater it? Yeah. Well, so then now I'm free in the wintertime, and people are like, hey, my daughter's getting married. Would you want to cater that? Or, hey, we're having an anniversary party. Would you want to do that? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? So from there, I started in the winter times, because of all my comp time, I started catering for events all over the place. So anyway, so that I ended up, has anybody heard of the Henry Blosser house? No, not the one in town. Mr. Eli has. So the Henry Blosser house is between here and Malta. Anybody know where Malta Ben is? You know, out on 65 highway. But it's probably about 6 miles out. This was a house. It was the party house, you know, where all the kids went and everything at night and that kind of thing. But a doctor in Kansas City ended up buying this place. It was a replica of the governor's mansion in Missouri. And the people that built the governor's mansion also built this house for Henry Blosser. He was a veterinarian here in Saline County. So they took this house and totally renovated it from the ground up. They got my name by word of mouth. Hey, would you come out? We want to do something special for our workers. Can you come out and cater a meal for them? Plus the owners are going to be here. I'm like, sure, I'd love to. So I went out and did that. A week later, I get a call. You know, everything was fabulous. By the way, would you be interested in managing the property for us? Well, the thing was, I don't know, it was probably about 3 months before we went out to meaning my husband and I, he took me out to see this property. And I looked at it and I looked at him and I said, I'm going to have that property or that barn. There's a beautiful barn on it. I said, I'm going to have that barn, whether I have that barn or build one just like it. It was beautiful. Fell in love with it for event barn space, right? So anyway, of course that didn't happen because this doctor had bought it and was renovating it. But they did come to me and say, hey, would you mind, you know, taking care of the property and manage it and doing the food and da-da-da. So it was going to be a 7-room bed and breakfast with an event barn on it. So I left my job after 16 years with Parks and Rec, went into to this position. 5 months later, they came to me and said, we're no longer going to open this. The doctor ended up with brain cancer, and so they decided not to open it at that time, which left me where? Nowhere, right? So after all the crying, mad, you know, everything else, all my feelings that I went through, I looked at my husband and I said, I'm never going to work for anybody else the rest of my life. I said, the only person I'm going to work for is myself, because I'm the only one that can say no to me. So that's what I ended up doing. So we ended up buying a hotel that was built in 1900 on the square. It had been vacant for 30-some years and totally renovated the building. So that's where we're at today. Here's what my building, you saw the other picture, here's what my building looked like when I bought it. We bought it, no heating, cooling, no electric, no plumbing, no gas, no nothing. So it was going to be a complete overhaul. But what I ended up doing was taking my knowledge from the Henry Blosser house and during that renovation and used it and applied it to this building. Oh, let me go back. We, of course, I don't know if you guys knew, but my husband worked out here in the business department, in the ag business department. So, of course, he's, you know, business. We got to have a business plan. We got to do this. We got to do that. Fine. So we put together a business plan and decided I wanted to continue to do my catering. In all my catering, I heard stuff like, this is a beautiful building and this is beautiful, but they're way too big. Well, this just had a spot in there fit for like anywhere between 20 to 80 people. I'm like, this is perfect. The coffee shop, he taught an entrepreneur class and you had to do a project and build a business from the ground up. And he told me, he goes, Lori, inevitably every time somebody says they put together a business plan for a coffee shop with free Wi-Fi. I said, okay, we can include that. So we put that in there. And then I knew I needed the restaurant side of things to help sustain things, plus add a little more to the building. At the time, we are also working with another company and going to put a tap room in, which ended up, they backed out on me at the last minute, and it took me 2.5 years, but we finally got our own bar area opened and that kind of thing. And eventually, we're opening a bed and breakfast that we hope to have open by next May. And that'll be the whole top area. We're going to put in 5 rooms for a bed and breakfast. So here I'm just showing you some pictures of what we dealt with and how, as far as the restoration of the building. So this first picture is what that room looked like. We ended up, the first thing we had to do was walk in there. There was asbestos flooring. Okay, anybody know about that or anything? Okay, so normally you have to have it professionally removed. They had to block it off, sign it off. Or they said, or you can do it yourself. So I looked at my husband and I said, that's $6,000. That buys my fridge and my freezer. So we ended up, COVID hit in February of 2020, right at the end. That's when we started this project. We had to go in, we scraped 1.8 tons worth of asbestos tile off the floor ourselves. And then we ended up taking the whole, we had to take that off first because nobody would take anything else. We had to bag it, we had to get proper, to dispose of it, we had to, and that kind of thing. But we ended up taking the rest of the flooring out, and that's what you see here. There's no floor. The building was built on a dirt floor there. There's a closer look. These were steps down into a basement. That was a 16-foot basement. In that basement, I think that's my next picture. Let me get there. Yes. See these 2 rooms? See those 2 holes right there? It looks like doorways. Those 2 rooms were filled completely with chat. Dirt, chat, rock. Anybody recognize the guy at all? Anybody know him? Wrestler for that's Remy. He's a wrestler for Missouri Valley. With these wrestlers, Larry and I couldn't have done this project. They came in and we shoveled out all of that chat out of those rooms. And then, let me back up. See that big ditch right there? All that chat filled those ditches. That's how much we took out of there. Fun. From there, here's the front doors. These are my pride and joy. The previous owner had done a lot of brickwork, came in and put this little round door in for the front, and we went in and tore it out. It about made him sick, which I could understand, all of his work and that kind of thing. But I said, Lee, you've got to trust me because these doors have got to say something. So we tore out the brick and ended up with those doors. This is my club room area that we did. I take care of Kiwanis, service organizations here in town, Optimus, Kiwanis, Lions. And so we ended up just naming this room the club room because this is where they meet every week, and I cater their meals every week. The floor right there, that's the floor, what it looked like before, and then you can see what the floor looked like afterwards. This is my lobby area. There's 3 pictures. I don't have the before pictures. That floor is over 120 years old. I said, I hope I look that good when at 120. How about you? So, but once it's destroyed, I can't replace it unless I end up finding tile, but I have not found tile to replace yet. But anyway, that staircase leads up to the 2nd floor, which will be our bed and breakfast area. All right, so in our business plan, the name Montague is a family name. With that being said, this is my grandmother right here. Oh, where's the little pointer thing? Is that it? There she is. That's my grandmother right there. Her name was Virginia Montague. This was taken out of the yearbook here in 1926. She was a freshman. My youngest daughter graduated. Some of you might know her, Reagan. She works in admissions, but she's fourth generation to graduate from Missouri Valley College. So Missouri Valley is near and dear to us. So she graduated. My dad and my dad's brother, my uncle, also graduated. My husband and I both graduated from Missouri Valley College and then hers. So 4 generations. So that's kind of, I knew I wanted to take and integrate all of the family history and the Marshall history and that kind of thing into my building. And one of the reasons is because when you get older, you appreciate history so much more. So, not only do I have the Montague name, but we have several other things that have to do with Marshall history that's related to our family. So up in the top is has anybody been out to the Nicholas Beasley Museum? If you haven't, you should. It's a jewel for us to have. But Nicholas Beasley, my great uncle, Mick Montague, worked for Nicholas Beasley, building planes and teaching the flying school. Not only that, but then my grandmother, Virginia, was the first female to take flying lessons from Nicholas Beasley. And so she was just acquaintances of Amelia Earhart. Back then, 30s, women could only fly the supply planes. So, and there wasn't very many of them, but they flew the supply planes. This is the NB-3 that was built, the Nicholas Beasley 3. This plane was going to be for World War I. They were coming to look at it to use. But the day before they came, my uncle, great uncle, took it out to fly it and crashed it. So it didn't happen. But my grandmother was also the first female to get to fly that plane, which was not a supply plane. So with that being said, if you look over in my menu up in the appetizer, I have, no, it's not in the appetizers, is it? It's down in the sandwiches and more, I have Beasley wings for Nicholas Beasley. So now I'm incorporating my family history and Marshall history into my menu. The next picture down is the Ruff Hotel. Ruff was my maiden name. My grandmother, Virginia Montague, married a Ruff. Anybody know who stayed at the Ruff Hotel? Who lived, I shouldn't say stayed, but lived at the Ruff Hotel? Huh? Jim the Wonder Dog. You all heard of Jim the Wonder Dog? Have you heard of Jim? If you haven't, you should. Jim is the state wonder dog of Missouri. And that couldn't have happened without Miss Donna Houston. So she's very proud of me right now for putting this little clip in here. But anyway, Jim stayed at the Ruff Hotel. The Ruff Hotel was owned by my great uncle, Robert Burns Ruff. So the owners of the dog, the Van Arsdales, managed the hotel for my uncle. So, and that's where he lived. So anybody know any fun facts about Jim?
He was super smart.
Yep. Anybody?
100 years old next year.
He will. He's going to be 100 years old next year. So Jim, a few little things. You could write on a piece of paper, go find the Georgia license plate. You didn't have to read it to him. You wrote it on the piece of paper, showed it to him, and he went and found the Georgia license plate on the square. They said, go sit by the hickory tree. Guess what he did? Sat by the hickory tree. Then he was told, go sit by the walnut tree. Guess where he went and sat? By the walnut tree. A fun fact that I just learned not too long ago was he would walk around, men would be standing around, and he would walk around and take his nose and hit their pocket with their change in it, and he could tell you who had the most change in their pocket. He predicted picked the Kentucky Derby winner 7 years in a row. He could determine the sex of a baby. Okay? So anyway, pretty wonderful, wasn't he? So on my menu, you'll see there is the gym dog. So it's a brats on a pretzel bun with sauerkraut. But anyway, so I named that after him. Anybody know the Ruff Hotel sold and it changed owners and it changed names? Anybody know what the name of the Ruff Hotel became? Huh? Nope. That became the Viking Hotel. Guess who owned it? Graduates of Missouri Valley College. Okay? So, lots of history there. So, in my appetizers, you see, right? Yeah, the Viking loaded fries. So, those are named for Missouri Valley and the Viking Hotel. Okay? How am I doing? Okay. All right, so lessons learned and things along the way in the process of building my business and my taking my dreams and making them reality. We had to start by creating the LLC and registering fictitious names. Did you know that? Did you know you have to register your name with the state? Wherever you're at? Okay. These might be simple little things, but I am very simple, plain, and straight to the point, right? Employees, dealing with them and hiring them, that has become a very big challenge in this day and age. I don't know why. I can only hope for the best, but it's hard to keep employees anymore. They maybe stay with me 3 to 6 months and then they're out the door. So I'm ever turning that over. Along with that was payroll. So at the time, I jumped around a little bit, but when before we finished the project, before we finished the building and stuff, we started in February. In July, my husband found out he was going to be deployed to the border for over a year. That happened in July. He left in October. I finished the project and opened in April. But at the time, I was sending him my payroll stuff and we were trying to do payroll ourselves. Found out that ain't happening. So we ended up, his sister was an accountant and said, here, this is what you need to use. Of course, we asked around. I don't see any problems with asking people, how did you do this? What do you prefer? What did you use? Okay, I've learned a lot that way. So we ended up, it's a company, it's called Paychecks. So I do all my stuff through them. Lovely little app. For me, understand age and stuff. These apps and everything else are a learning curve. Okay, but I use that, and so all my employees have that. And I think it's pretty special. I don't have to do it anymore. Licensing and regulations. We had to have business license. Not only a business license, it had to be for the state, had to be for the county, had to be for the city. Okay? Learn those things. And I'm like, well, how do you find this out? Well, there is no book on all of this that I know of. I've asked a lot. We ended up getting our liquor license. I thought, oh, once I go through the state and get it? Nope. Guess who else gets to get in my pocketbook on those licensing? The county. And who else? The city. I'm like, what do you do with that money? They can't tell me. Anyway, I'm like, what do you do with my money? Because I buy all my alcohol. You don't buy it. You don't do anything. Oh, plus, guess what? I'm paying sales tax on that also. That guess who gets a cut of? The city, the county, the state. Certified kitchen and health inspections. In this day and age with social media, there are so many people out there doing their own. I want to look at it in a positive way and saying they're doing their own entrepreneurship and they're falling into things and they have crafts and abilities and that kind of thing and hobbies. And then they put them on Facebook and start selling them. How many have seen that? All the time, right? I see it all the time. But the thing that people don't understand is, like in my area, in the food industry, you have to have a certified kitchen in order to sell food out of. Now, go look at that Facebook, go look at that Instagram or Snapchat and see how many people are selling food and tell me that they're selling out of a certified kitchen that's been inspected. And do they know all the rules and regulations and safety codes? Do you think they do? So I sometimes feel like I'm the bad guy, but guess what I'm doing? I'm protecting my own business. I've invested, I feel like I've shown my community and stuff that I've invested in a storefront, and I pay all my taxes, and I employ people. I provide services to this town, and if you want to do it, you need to do it the same way I did it. So I fight that. I don't want to say I fight it, but I do question and make sure that I'm protecting what I have. And that might sound selfish to a certain extent, but you've got to do that for whatever area that you're working in. And I know it probably affects other areas. I'm only explaining how it affects my area and what I do right now. We also have to have fire inspections. Do you know the fire marshal had to come in and inspect my building before I could open? So that one doesn't only go for restaurants, it goes for any building that you may have. And not only along with fire inspections, but you got city codes. And guess who else has to come in? The city inspector. Okay? And you've got to pass all their rules and regulations. Okay? You see suppression. I have a hood. So they have to come in and inspect that every year and make sure it's on the up and up. Just little tidbits of stuff along the ways that I've learned. Taxes, I already kind of hit on that a little bit, but I'm telling you what, you want to get taxed to death. Guess what I just paid for my quarterly estimates for my taxes last week? Anybody want to take a guess?
20,000.
No, not that much. No. I don't make that much money. I'm in Marshall. And this is quarterly, so this is only for 3 months. I paid $6,000 out. Okay, so looks like you're rolling in the dough. Yeah, I'm doing great. And then Uncle Sam comes and says, wham, take it from you. But anyway, so keeping up on all that and learning to put that money back, right? Maintaining of facilities, the capital upkeep and replacement of building and the equipment. Okay, it's a never-ending thing. And I'll tell you, as we were renovating the building, I learned a lot. I learned how to do electric. I learned how to do plumbing. I can do trim work for you. That kind of thing. But all that stuff, the wear and tear on your building, on my building, imagine, anywhere between 100 to 400 people coming in and out of your building a day. What is that going to do, that wear and tear? So it's a constantly upkeep and replacement of stuff and that kind of thing that you also have to figure into your budgets and that kind of thing. Okay? Marketing. Oh my goodness. Marketing is so different. And understand, I'm talking because I'm older. I'm not old, but I'm older, right? But we didn't have social media. When I went to the Valley, do you think we had social media? So this has been a big learning curve in the amount of areas. Used to, you advertised in the paper and on the radio. That was all you had. And now what do we have? It's unreal. It blows my mind every day. And it's so much hard for me, especially it's so much harder to keep up on. But social media is for me, the greatest free method of reaching my customers. Also, the other one is word of mouth. Those are the two main things. It's not that I don't advertise and do stuff on social media or still on the radio and that kind of thing, but I do pick and choose wisely. And there's always a reason. Maybe I'm going to be doing something new. When I opened up my bar area, I went out and I did some radio advertising just to try to beef that up. Just simple little things. But, you know, I've had people come in, oh, we can do a lot for you. You know, the billboard signs that are ever changing, I had a guy come in wanting me to buy advertising on that. That was expensive, especially for a small operation like me. I said, but they couldn't give me numbers. They couldn't tell me the effects that it had. So guess what? This old gal was out. Until you can kind of give me numbers and tell me the impact that it will make. Plus, I went out and sat and watched the thing. And then I went to those businesses and said, how has that impacted your business? And you know, probably 80% of them couldn't tell me that it impacted a business. So guess what? This gal was out again. So you've got to always do your research on whatever you're doing. It's the same with my capital upkeep and replacement and stuff like that. I question stuff all the time. And it's not to question to say you're wrong and I'm right, but I'm trying to figure it out as I go along. Branding is very important with your business, right? I continue to say that over and over. Luckily, I had a daughter that did graphic design and stuff and helped me brand all of my, for my business and stuff. And she does a fantastic job with that. But then I'm thinking, okay, so how is that working? Does that really work? Well, I will tell you, I use my M, if you saw on my menu, the M. And long story short, I ended up having a guy come in and eat one day, and he says, I have to tell you this story, Lori. She goes, we were down south at some races, at a racetrack. And they were sitting there talking to this group of people, and this guy's like, yeah, man, we just came from a wedding over at Eagle Bluff, which is over in Waverly, Missouri, and we had the best prime rib ever. And I can't think of the name of the place, but it had an M. It had the scrolled M. I was like, sold. There's my branding, right? So it works, right? And the other thing I try to say, because I work with some other groups and that kind of thing, but what would have happened with McDonald's if they had 3 different looking M's? Would they be McDonald's? Would you know them as McDonald's? Yeah, but not, right? So branding, I think, is very important. I just continue to shove it out there all the time. My last thing is on this is I keep it simple. Guys, just that's me. Some people, you know, you want to go into more, but understand what was my degree in? It wasn't in business. And so I'll go home and I'll tell my husband, oh yeah, I discovered this today. This, if you do this and this. He's like, oh, well, that's such and such theory. I was like, why didn't you tell me? Why, you know, I'm stumbling and learning this stuff along the lines, but that's okay. So words of wisdom for me and things that I've learned along the way that I'll share with you. This first one, this is what I say over and over. Do what you do and do it great. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses. Do what you do. And I will tell you, when I opened my business, you know how many people I had come in saying, well, Lori, you need to do this, and Lori, you need to do that. What do you think they were? Do you think they were doing it? Okay, so, but it always felt like if 1 or 2 people said that to you, you felt like it was 1,000 people saying it to you, right? So with that being said, it comes down to the next one. Stick to your business plan, because people would come and say that, and I'd go and tell my husband, well, so-and-so says I need to do this or this. He's like, Lori, he goes, stick to the business plan, because it's working. I think details matter. It's the little things that matter. Those are the things that are going to stick in people's minds no matter what you're doing, no matter what kind of business you're doing. The little details make a huge difference. And I will tell you time and time again, it might be that I'm doing something for the Joneses, okay? And I take and I script out a J on something. Guess what they remember? On that little appetizer that I just did and I put a J on, that's what they remembered. Okay? And that's what keeps them coming back. for me. Telling the story. I didn't put it in there really great, but it is about telling the story. I did talk about the history and stuff, so people come in, and again, the history buff that I'm becoming and respecting and that kind of thing, it's about telling the story. Okay? One of the other things in my business plan that I wanted people to do is I wanted them to buy into what I was doing. I wanted them to believe in what I was doing, right? So it was telling the story. I'm picking on Donna, but one of her favorites is in my building, above all the existing windows were these panels that had glass in it. And it was called Luxfer glass. Okay? Anybody know who designed Luxfer glass? Anybody know Frank Lloyd Wright? Frank Lloyd Wright designed this glass. The light, what it did was, is when the light hit this glass and these little panels, it diffused the light. So in my building, I took 4 of these panels and put them up as a divider into my kitchen. And the day that we put it up, my dad was helping, and he walked by, and he shrank. And I was like, I looked at my mom. My mom was standing there with me, so we were admiring this beautiful little wall, right? And we're like, I was like, wait. I'm like, hey, Dad, walk back across. And I was like, Mom, watch. And he walked back across, and he shrunk again. But he was still standing tall. Well, what it was doing, it was diffusing him. And it was diffusing him this way, right? So it's always a fun little story, little trivia, but that wall is there. Donna takes people back there and shows them that, and then we get to tell the story, right? It was Luxfer glass. It was there at the building. You know, Frank Lloyd Wright designed this, da-da-da-da-da. So those are fun little things that we like to do. So when you tell the story, you're selling more than just the food of what I sell, right? So that was my business plan and my vision for the place, is to sell more than that and sell the history. And guess what? People talked. And guess what? Now history lives on in our little old town, right? And then so the fun thing is I watch is they tell the story, and then they bring more friends in, and they tell them the story. And they bring friends in, and they tell the story. So it's a lot of fun watching that. To me, word of mouth is your best advertisement ever. I don't think you can put a dollar amount on that whatsoever. So, and I don't know what else to say about that than that's what I've seen throughout my, not that doing advertisement doesn't help, but that to me, for me, is the best that's worked for me. One of my other things is treat the customers the way you want to be treated. I don't know. I'm old again. I'm older, right? But it just doesn't seem like customer service and stuff is where it used to be. And so that was one of my big things. Treat others the way you want to be treated. You don't like that? Let me get you something else to eat. Okay? I didn't do that right, then I'm not charging you for that. But it's like, how would I want to be treated if you know, something was right, wrong, or indifferent? How would I want to be treated? And so that's what I try to do, is pass that on to my customers. And I think it makes a big impact because they're going to remember that the next time. Something else I will tell you is to be involved in your community. You want to learn? Be involved. I sit on our tourism commission, so I learned a lot about marketing through there, and what people liked and what they didn't like. I learned a lot about old buildings and how to advertise and how to bring people into our community and that kind of thing. But there's just whatever you're involved in. Maybe it is the local little Lions service organization. But you're going to learn. And you're going to learn something from them that you can apply back to what you're doing. Every time. And I will tell you, no matter what I've worked in and volunteered my time in, I have always learned something that I can apply. Plus, it's just good for people to see you out in the community, right? You're building relationships that bring other customers in. that might sound selfish, but it does work. My last thing there is don't be afraid to ask questions. No question is stupid, right? It's that unasked question. I ask because I'm wanting to know and wanting to learn. Okay, there's always something new to learn, and that's the way I've learned most of my information these days. Along with my business, I get quirks. And so I'm showing you some of my fun quirks. So Governor Parsons was in. Our state representative, Curtis Gregory's right there. He said, Lori, he goes, I'm bringing him to your building to eat, and then we're going over to see Jim the Wonder Dog. My great. So the wheels start turning. I called Curtis. I said, what's his favorite cookie? And I found out what it was. And so to this day, so my husband now works for the National Guard. He works at Ike Skelton in Jeff City, and they're at the state capitol all the time. But guess what Governor Parsons remembers about me? Those cookies. When's your wife going to make me some more of those cookies? And that's his wife there with you too. So, anybody know who that is? Huh? It's Tony Danza. Anybody know Tony Danza? Sure. Okay. Taxi, the old sitcom Taxi show. Anybody? Are we really telling our age here? You guys got to look this up. So Tony Danza, I get to do, I am so fortunate, I do the catering for the Lyceum Theater in Arrow Rock, Missouri. So they bring in lots of fun groups and neat people and that kind of thing, and so I get to cook for them. And that is the most rewarding thing, is just cooking. Whether it's cooking for somebody famous or just the regular old person that comes in every day. I enjoy that cooking part. So Tony Danza was on Taxi. There was a theme song from Taxi. And I can't remember what the actual name of the theme song was. But guess who wrote that theme song for Taxi? Who said that? Bob James wrote that song. Guess where Bob James is from? Marshall, Missouri. Tony didn't even know that, but I was like, I got you now. He'll always remember that. But anyway, so we got to cook for him. If you know of Tony Danza and how he acts on TV and all that good stuff, he is the same fun-loving guy there too. There's some other ones that I've done stuff I didn't get pictures with. Sawyer Brown I've cooked for. I just, a couple weekends ago, did Josh Turner, Travis Truitt. Any of those names you all know? Am I still old? Anybody know who the gal is? The dark-haired gal with the black solid shirt on and jeans?
Sarah Evans.
Yes. Sarah Evans, country singer. So got to cook for her. My first one into my building, first famous person into my building, the guy with the cowboy hat on, standing by the gal in the cowboy hat. Anybody know who that is? That is Paul Overstreet. So he's the first famous one to come in. The guy beside him is Even Steven. He's wrote hundreds of songs. He wrote almost all of Eddie Rabbitt's music, if you know Eddie Rabbitt, the country singer. So these are fun ones that I get to do. So anyway, with that being said, are there questions? Can I answer questions for you? Oh.
I think Charlie will take, Charlie, you doing it, or Milena? If you have a question, we have time just for a few questions here, and of course we'll have the breakout session. So does anybody have a question for Lori? Any questions? Surely you have a few questions. There we go, so bring the mic over here. And if anyone else has a question, raise your hand while we're asked. So give your name and your question, please.
My name is Fabian. My question comes from the branding side. Since you opened Montague's, have you had the same branding, same ideas? You haven't changed the M. What do you think was your beginning idea when you first made the logo that you said, well, this logo can keep on living 5, 10, 20 years from now?
Sure. He asked why, if I still have the same branding and that kind of thing. Yes. In fact, I will tell you on Friday, I've been open for 3 years. So Not very long, right? I haven't been open that 150 years yet, but I've been open 3 years. But my branding, I knew what I wanted my M to look like. And so, of course, my daughter was able to take my vision and make that. And so I will probably always stick to that M. I think it's beautiful for myself. But anyway, but yeah, I won't change that.
When you first pitched the idea to open Montague's, was your husband all on board, or was he a little bit hesitant to the idea of trying something new and investing all this time into renovating a building that hasn't been vacated for over 30 years?
Yes, he was, believe it or not, he was on board. I mean, we're very supportive in whatever we do and that kind of thing. He been through the trials and tribulations with me as over the years of doing and growing as a person and learning stuff. So he knew exactly. Was it scary? Yes. I will tell you that first day we started scraping asbestos tile off the floor, we looked at each other like, what have we gotten ourselves into? And he knew exactly what I was thinking, but he looked at me and he said, sweetheart, he goes, this is an elephant, and we're going to eat it one bite at a time. And so that's the way we tackled the whole project.
Any other questions? All right, let's give a big hand to Lori. Thank you very much. And